Hi, guys. But the reason that we are all together and not trying to do a panel discussion, but trying to debate on certain very, very important things is because, as I said, I'm calling myself a provocateur. And the idea is to hold a mirror to ourselves and hold a mirror to ourselves and realize, why do architects not matter in this society? If you find it very harsh, well, the fact of the matter is that architecture does not permeate to the masses. At best, it remains, the profession remains a tool for personal glory, or at best, for the glory of the client or the project. We do not matter to the public. We do not matter for the society. The reason is because our work, our projects do not matter or make difference to the life of the people at large. How do we make ourselves relevant to the society? What are the projects that can make us relevant to the society is what I thought we will debate about it. And what better context than to find out how we can design and how our public spaces are designed by architects, or if they are at all designed by architects. Historically, public spaces are places which are for socio-political gatherings or just plain convivial areas of religious or other kind of gatherings where there is complete organic structure, there is nothing designed, there is no placemaking that happens, and people just come out into the open and they are free to come. However, over a period of time, these areas have also been segregated by usage, by caste, by creed, by religion, also by sometimes in case of temple precincts and stuff like that, by even the gender. So I thought we will debate with everybody and talk about what is it that we can do in the public realm to bring in a little more architecture, a little more design, so that people at large who are, I don't like to call anybody have-nots, but in terms of design sensibility have-nots, because they don't have the means to have very well designed, ergonomically designed places of their own. If they come out into the public realm, the moment they step out of their own homes, they come out into the public realm. If the public realm is well designed, even a small bus stop, a bench, a park bench or something which is well designed, they interact with a good design. Somehow a good design gets imprinted subconsciously in your mind because of the difference that you can suddenly articulate, that in your own house when you're sitting on a makeshift stone bench, and then you are coming here on a bus stop where there's a steel ergonomically designed bench that gives you good support and everything, you would start understanding the nuances of good design. And this is what I think allows people to sensitize themselves towards good design. And I think we can educate people about good design. And when the creator of that good design happens to be an architect, I think the profession benefits. So I'm throwing open this entire topic to all of you. My first question, I think, let's start with Sheila. The definition of public space. What exactly is a public space? What is public space by right, and what is public space by privilege? Over to you.
Hi. Public spaces, according to me, there are only two kinds of spaces, which are private and public. And of course, you have all the grays in between. So the transition spaces, which are semi-private or semi-public, public to the extent restrictive for communities, muted or open to the entire, human race, anybody without any restrictions, no barriers, no genders, no religion, no caste. So you have everybody.
Sheila, you're very soft. I can't hear you clearly. Sorry.
Yeah, should I? Yeah, I was saying that spaces are basically of two kinds. As far as I'm concerned, it's either private or public. And in between the black and the white, there are several tones of gray. So these tones of gray could make it semi public or semi private, or to a restricted community, to a particular community, to a particular neighborhood, which can be defined by geography, by gender, by vocation, by education if they are in an institution, by the institution that they go to. So there are various kinds of public spaces. But one thing about public spaces is that if private spaces are the backstage where a person can get ready, I think public spaces is where the drama happens, the drama of life happens. So I give a lot of value to public spaces because that is where we as a human race interact, connect, collaborate, learn, strengthen our strengths, and minimize our weaknesses, and aspire, get inspired, and set benchmarks for ourselves, whether it is collectively or whether it is individually, to do better in life and to lead a more comfortable, happy, and prosperous life. So these spaces are very, very, very important. But what happens is that, in designed campuses, like in an institutional campus or in a residential township, there is an architect or a master planner who, decides, makes places, makes spaces, identifies placemaking techniques, and identifies that this is for leisure, this is for congregation, this is for something else, this is for
Vipin,
drama, etc.
can we
But
have
then
this lamp this side?
sorry, but there are also spaces which are anonymous and which are given to us by nature's bounty. And those are spaces like our beaches, our riverfronts, our lakesides, our biodiversity parks, etc., which is open and non-restrictive. It is by and large there for humanity to enjoy and explore. So why I say it is sad that there are these spaces which are anonymous is because in Tamil, they say Porambok. I don't know how many of you understand, but Porambok is a kind of a no man's land. And when they want to give a gali to somebody, they say Poda Porambok. That means you're useless. So the connotation of Porambok is being useless. But whereas it is in the parlance of the planet, it is one of the global commons that we need to enjoy, and that is rightfully ours. So, how do you get this
Uh,
ownership to these spaces? What does an architect do, or what can a designer do to make this sense of belonging and sense of identity to these kinds of spaces, which will attract people and make them, safe and convenient for usage in any way that they want. So all these spaces, like I said, beach fronts, lakesides, river fronts, could be used in multifarious ways. You could have music shows in the evening. You can have a skating rink and have children skating in the afternoon. You could have, under a tree. You could have a congregation. You could have a meeting, or you could have picnics. So these by far are very flexi usage and flexi programmatic. So it
Sheila, I'm going
depends
to
on.
jump in here. I'm going to jump
Yes.
in here. And I feel that these are unarticulated spaces. And when we are talking about these are what nature has given us. Anything which is not put to a particular use is a public space and it's an open space. What I think we are talking about and what we want to know is what is the placemaking that happens in these public spaces, which is an intervention that
That is
will
what
help
I'm
it to get
saying.
identified as a articulated space.
That is precisely what I am saying. if you have a 3-mile stretch of beach, then it is up to the designers to kind of identify or zone these areas for various activities and various conveniences. So the infrastructure is required. If
Right.
toilets are required, a corner for pets, a corner for barrier free, for people who can, are challenged to walk, gradients done. So all that is the designer's, articulation. But by and large, the entire 3-mile stretch is one entity. So I mean, whether it is the micro level or the macro level, at the macro level it's the beachfront, okay, but at a micro level it could be a quadrangle or a courtyard in a residential complex where all the apartments overlook. So how do you articulate?
I think what Vivek is asking us is,
Yeah.
So I think your definition is fantastic, that there is the private and the public and all the grays in between, and all this can happen. What he's asking us to do is self-reflect on why in India are architects not relevant, and why are our public spaces not better? So what is stopping? Is it that architects are not volunteering to do this? They only want to work for a client? So the private realm, and you mentioned the townships and the campuses and all of those have that because there's a client who's paying. But in the other public realm, in these gray spaces and in these leftover spaces or the nature, their interventions are not there. So Vivek, I think you're being a little harsh on architects and designers. No, let me say it.
Yeah, that's the whole idea.
So I think you're being a little harsh, because it is, you see, for public spaces, there has to be a process, right? There has to be the city as the client, and the city as the client has to have a process to engage an architect or to engage an urban design firm to be able to do it. That process in our cities doesn't exist.
Absolutely.
We have our town planning acts. So Maharashtra town planning. So certain limited things happen because they're there in the act. So the processes that happen in cities are defined by law, right? And so the law says there shall be a 10-year master plan. So there's a 10-year master plan made. The law says, and in that master plan, they say this shall be your width of your road. So that applies, right? So in a sense, our laws and our acts need to be reformed. When we talk about reform, it's not only financial reform. It's not only reform of outdated police laws or criminal laws. It's also these laws that need reform. See, the Maharashtra Town Planning Act was 1967. So 67 ke baad, there's nothing come. So unless citizens demand and tell the legislators or the MLAs, and we tell them, boss, you need to change this act. Now you need to incorporate processes that improvements can happen in public spaces, that citizens can take up project. There has to be a process in place. As designers, all of us have repeatedly, given our time, made designs for promenades, for entire makeover of streets, for beach plans, for everything. But then we have to go, Acha Mai Baap, Kardona, go to the commissioner, you go to the chief minister, you go to the ward officer, and you're pleading.
You don't know where to
So
go.
Why do we have to plead? So why should we have to plead? There should be a process.
Just to keep the dialogue going, Sheila, Rahul, I will have to take you back to the times. There's a thing called a pro bono effort. If we will come back to blaming the government authorities, the town planning rules and everything, we will never be able to do anything. In every other profession, let me just finish. In every other profession, whether it is advocates who have a legal clinic, which is for the poorest of the people. If they are in trouble, they of course teach them. They will tell them that, okay, you should not break the law, this, that, the other, but they help them. Doctors, if you are ill, if you are not well, they will obviously, there are enough pro bono clinics that the doctors help. So that is how the profession permeates down to the lowest level. An architect is always making a good whipping horse of a town planning department or the municipality or something, and not doing enough pro bono effect. I'll ask you one question. Through this pandemic, through the 7 months of lockdown, has there ever been even one WhatsApp forward where an architect has been relevant, right from every doctor, every quack, every...
There have been 200. There have been 200.
What kind of what?
There have been 200. About social distancing in markets, about designing marketplaces, about designing stalls. How do you design a stall so that a worker can... There have been 200 of them.
That's always only gone to the fraternity. That's always gone only to the fraternity. What I'm saying is, did it affect everybody? I thought that is the most commonsensical thing.
It did. In Bombay, it did. Grantwood Market was changed.
Yeah, so these guys are coming. These guys are being spoken with tomorrow. Yeah, that's one of the reasons that we said we'll speak on the public spaces. My question again, coming back, Rahul, I will just put it again and bring it back in a little more relevant manner. The question right now is, how relevant are we? Are we designing for people? Can we design pro bono? And I think there, maybe if Habib was there, my question to him would have been, does, as a representative of the fraternity, council have the teeth to form some kind of pro bono teams in every city, in every municipality? And
why should we design pro bono for the city? I can design a pro bono for a guy in a slum who can't pay. Why should I do pro bono work for a government who can pay, who waste taxpayer money in projects which are frivolous? Why should I do pro bono work for them? They should pay for the services. Absolutely. This is for the benefit of everybody. We are all paying taxes. It's a democracy. We are saying what is good for the common. So we all need to work for the common good. So there has to be a process to harness. See, there's no lack of design. There's no lack of design sensibility. Hum thak gaye hain. We are tired of doing pro bono work and begging. How many projects I've done? How many projects fellow Bombayites have done? But we get tired being shunted from one municipal corporation to the other. There has to be a process. Why can't listen, unless there is a law, unless there is a process. See, even your DC rules, why do we crib about the rules? Right? We are constrained by it. Right? Your creativity is constrained by it. You need to change the damn DC rules to unleash the creativity. Law plays a much greater role. We think, acha, everything is creative. Arre baba, aise nahi hai life mein.
But the architects want to be
the bureaucrat only follows his law. When you go to him with a design, he's saying, acha, this doesn't fit into my schedule of rates. This doesn't fit into my this, that, and the other. So the laws have to be changed.
We want to be law unto ourselves. The thing is, why can't we align ourselves with the municipal?
We don't know how democracy works. We don't understand how democracy works. We therefore go to the bureaucrat and we don't go to the politician and demand change from the politician. Boss, design is also policy design. If policy doesn't work, if policy doesn't allow you, you're going against the current. Change the current, make it serve you.
Let me also tell you one thing. I have been doing this.
We don't participate in democracy. Architects and people, we're not in a democracy. You get what you deserve at the end of the day. So we are at fault. We're all at fault. There's no blame. But I'm trying to lay down the process. Sorry, Sheila.
When I'm talking about, let me bring back the same thing. When I'm talking about pro bono work, I'm talking about what used to happen in earlier public spaces. Somebody would go and put a piau, a water hut. Somebody will go and put a bench. Now, this is what I'm calling as a pro bono work, where you can design a good bench, put it there, show it as a prototype to the municipality, align with the municipality. This is how an architect can actually seek a client. how do we work the entire process of
Vivek.
an architect work is different.
Vivek,
Yes, Kapil.
I wanna
Why
just-
do we have to do that?
One second,
Why
one
do we
second,
have
one
to
second.
do that?
Okay,
Yeah,
go-
1 second. I don't think the issue is pro bono or not pro bono.
Kiran has
I
something
think,
to say.
yeah, I have a fundamental issue. I think when we look at ourselves, I think let me be honest with you. Our emphasis on public spaces is very, very weak as a culture, and the reason for that is that
Right.
our concern, and I'm talking about the general citizens and stuff like that, or even when you talk to a corporator and stuff like that. In fact, where I stay, our corporator or our member of Legislative Assembly is Mr. Thackeray, Aditya Thackeray. And we've been engaging with Aditya Thackeray. Now, the issue is that the priority of the people is actually far more basic than public spaces. So we don't lay enough emphasis on public spaces. And, by
True that.
public spaces, we mainly talk about recreational spaces or open spaces, but just simple things like streets and stuff like that is an issue. So what I'm just trying to say is that our concerns become more basic in terms of providing housing, sanitation, etc., etc. So the emphasis on public spaces as a culture traditionally is been very, very weak. And
The
if you look at
priority is very low.
yes, the priority is very, very low. And if you notice, in not the British, I just want to keep the British colonial this thing out of it. If you look at it, what has worked as successful public spaces in India as a race is really been religious spaces, because you've got the religious tag attached to it. So it becomes these religious spaces which are in a certain sense sacred. Therefore, these things are valued. But general public spaces, recreational spaces, there is a severe dearth of it, and we consider that to be a very low priority. And I think priorities are changing, but the process is very, very slow. Today, I think the issue is that our priorities are not with public spaces. And I'm talking about public spaces in the broadest sense of the word, right from streets and stuff like that. And, I think there is an issue there that unless we kind of look at, as architects, urban designers, citizens broadly, talk about how public space is going to affect all of us, I don't think that the priority
That's exactly
is
the point.
there. So that is the issue. I think that is the debate, at least in my opinion, that
That's
we
exactly
I
Kiran.
agree with
That's
Rahul.
exactly the point.
I also agree with Rahul that there is absolutely no need to do pro bono work, honestly speaking. There's absolutely no need to do pro bono work, because I think it's not even going to make a small dent in the whole perception of how we perceive public spaces. The important thing is that unless, I think becoming part of the process of actually talking to our corporators, talking to our districts, of actually saying, realizing the importance of public space, I think we are completely on a wrong track and stuff like that. So I think there is a significant concern that I have about understanding the culture, and I think I personally find now COVID as a big opportunity, because suddenly people are looking at the value of open spaces and stuff like that. And I have seen so many more people exercising, realizing the importance of health, wellness and stuff like that all over the country. And I know Mumbai for a fact, even in middle class, lower middle class suburbs and stuff like that. So I think the culture needs to change, that we need to put a far greater emphasis on public spaces. I think we're putting far greater emphasis on this housing, providing housing, etc., but very little emphasis on public spaces. That's the problem. I think it's not a priority for us as a culture, honestly.
No, I'll just share something with you. Right from not now, but right from 1980s, I have been working with the government to see that a river in Chennai is vitalized. All the residual spaces are articulated, are given some usage, etc. And I had to when I went and met the CMD authority, they said, you convene the meeting. So I convened the meeting. I had the PWD, the corporation, the pollution control board, the slum clearance board. So all of them were part of this presentation. And when I presented it, finally they said the river belongs to the central authority. So you have to get the central authority involved, because the river is not our jurisdiction. So I think it is mostly that, we as a system work in silos. So each one has a very laudable idea, but we are not able to tango together to see that, we are in a position to get something and create something of value. So finally, you get tired. World Bank funds were
Yeah.
allocated, the river was cleaned, and then again.
I'm sorry, guys. I think we are again headed back in the same manner, that we will anyways find somebody, will make a dartboard of one authority or the other and absolve ourselves of our social responsibility.
No.
Question. Now I am part of the Chennai Smart City, so I
Right.
see a sea change. I see a sea change because at least on the board we are all together, and we have a command center, which is, we are moving in the right direction. So there is this
Again, the
collaborative.
question, Sheila, again, the question is, architects tend to play gods. And, we want people to lead their lives in a certain manner. We are very prescriptive in our thinking. Deny the fact that, in a smart city or whatever, then you will say, walk to work. You will have silos, actual silos, where you want people to walk to work, do this, that, the other, and everything. What if I'm working in Citibank and my job is in downtown and I live in Andheri? Then I will have to travel there. So the question is, and also I just realized the three of you belong to coastal areas and you have lovely public spaces by virtue of being coastal towns. I am from Delhi, and ask me that what great dearth of public spaces we have. There's literally none. All that we have.
I think you have all the
No,
monuments.
we envy Delhi.
You
Yeah,
have to
what are you
understand,
talking
those are
about?
not public spaces. They are
The grass,
You've got Lakshman Delhi, you've got the
they are
range, you've got
recreational.
Tony
Rahul,
Garden.
they are Rahul.
Exactly,
When I get out of
exactly
this
my
office
point.
now, after
Exactly
this
my
talk,
point.
if I want to go somewhere, I can't go to Ridge. I can't go to the park. Where is the public space for me? There is no
Why
public
can't
space
you
for
go
me.
there?
I
Why
want
can't
that
you
public
go
space
there?
to be created by
Why can't
because
you go there?
there is a
Why
timing
can't
for
you go
that.
there? Because there's a
there
law
is a timing
preventing
for-
you. Change the law. It should be
Right.
open at 24/7. The laws have to be changed. That's what I'm
because
saying.
then. So there is
Make it
the
accessible
question
to
is
public.
about what is a public. What is a public
It's-
space? Even
A
London's
garden should be
Hyde
a
Park
public
closes
space
at night
open
because-
24/7.
But we must be. What is a public space? Where it is safe and convivial for women, children, everybody. A park cannot
Right.
be safe at night. Definitely not
Right.
because of people alone, because of reptiles, because of issues and everything. That could be the case. I'm talking about public spaces which you see. And I will give you some example in Delhi, and I think not many people, and I want people to identify that kind of one of the most chaotic areas in Delhi is the Ames flyover. That is a roundabout now. It's about 2-3 flyovers merged together, and the underbelly of a flyover is always the worst kind of a place. We only deal with that place as a moving thing. We are always in a car. There is hardly any pedestrian crossing there and everything. Jindals came, and again, that's why I'm saying, and that's what I meant, not just pro bono, but proactively getting back, usurping public spaces by placemaking. They came, put some lovely mushrooms. Lovely is a very subjective word, and that's why architects do not progress, because we are always pulling each other's legs down. Somebody finds something subjectively good, subjectively bad. Now, these mushrooms, what they did to the city is that, to me and you, we only look at it from the top. But people in Ames and Safdarjung who are emotionally, hassled, who are physically hassled, who have left their homes and who are attending to relatives in the hospitals for months together, they find respite in that place. It's the most chaotic place, anything. It's got cacophony of sound, visual cacophony, everything. But for them, that placemaking by those mushrooms, this is a public space for those people. And I call that as public space. Why can't
Absolutely
architects do
agree
that?
with you. Vivek, totally agreed with you. Now, if you were to think, what process can put this in place in every neighborhood, in every city in the India? Okay, what should the process be to do this? Right? You want to upgrade every such place, every neighborhood. Right? What should the process be? The process cannot be a 10-year master plan. Right? It needs to be a different process that says every neighborhood has a budget, has the right to come up with a plan of what they want to upgrade in the next year or the next 2 years, and the government will listen and prioritize it, provide the funds, create it. So there needs to be a process in place to do it. Right now, there's no process. So you're begging. So this whole thing of master planning is an outdated idea. We as
Absolutely, I agree.
designers who know better need to, as Kiran said, the importance of this needs to be driven home, that these kind of places, as you're saying, under the flyover, benefit the common man tremendously, benefit everyone. In Bombay, there are several such things. But there needs to be a process in place so that this can happen again and again and again, not depend on free work by architects, not depend on persistence by architects, but a genuine process which lets it happen. So you have to change then. You have to change to go from master planning to continuous improvement. Continuous, every 2 years, 3 years, continuous improvement. What does this neighborhood need? How
Yeah.
can we improve it? And it needs to be
Rahul,
on various scales. So we need to design a framework
I agree.
for it
I
to happen.
fully agree with you. Fully
And
agree
put
with you.
a budget
That's what
to
I'm
it.
saying.
I think
When
the
we do
Also, our
something
wait, let me
proactively-
finish. Our corporation budgets, right, are very top down. Why should they be top down? The guy sitting in the head. In Delhi, you got the governor, right? In here, in Bombay, we have the commissioner who's not elected, right? Who doesn't know what's happening in a neighborhood. So when the budget making exercise is happening, every neighborhood needs to submit its top 3 schemes for the year and saying
Who
this is
submit
what we
those?
want to get done
Who
in the
sub-
year. There's enough
Neighborhood
money
through who?
available.
Neighborhood through an architect. Again, that's what I'm saying. I want
neighbor-
architect to come center stage in the
No, no,
planning
no, no,
of
no, no,
public
no, no, no.
spaces.
First, the people have to decide what they want. Then they get the architect involved to design for them. The
Right.
people are the clients, right? So you have a
Right.
neighborhood committee. You organize. It's a democracy. We need to make our democracy more vibrant, right? So we need to design the democracy. We're a fossilized. So as designers, that's the role we need to play, possibly to redesign the democracy to make it vibrant, so that these things bubble up. The importance is given to the kind of places that needs to be given. People are heard. Common man is, you're saying architect doesn't work for the common man. I mean, we don't even know what they want. We believe we know what they want. We don't know what they want. They may want something completely different. So first you have to listen. What do they want? That prioritization needs to happen, a process, then the budget allocated, then the architect come in to provide that. Right? Then your flyover,
Now,
under
today
the
there are enough
flyover,
examples.
millions will happen in the city, in the country.
Right. Today, there are enough examples of a good design, a good intervention gets traction. You know, that's what I'm trying to tell you. That again, we should not go this way. We should not go by policy, this, that, the other. Give to the society what they need or what we feel that they will benefit out of, and let it gather traction in the entire fraternity. What is happening is that we are sitting in our silos unless there is a common forum, and that common forum has to start from the architects fraternity. The reason why we're doing a series of 3 different panel discussions or debate is this only, that you are the thought leaders. You guys at your level are the thought leaders. You need to be looking at it, as a disruptive thinking. If you will always be able to only say this much, that there are issues and policy that we all know. This is the ill of our society. But the thing is, as disruptive thinkers, you have to find avenues which will come tomorrow at the end of the session, where I'm finding, and that's why I categorize these 3 into thought leaders as you guys. Then there are problem solvers who are actually, when there is a problem in a city, these are the guys who are actually engaging themselves with issues of a city. And then there are solution providers, who are people who have not even encountered a problem, but looking at
Vivek,
things that they can.
Vivek, I agree with you.
The city.
Vivek, I agree with you. Absolutely. I agree with you. However, just see our thinking. We have again put ourselves in a silo. We put ourselves in a silo thinking we have all the answers. Right? We don't have all
We
the
have some
answers.
answers.
We have to be
We
more
have
open.
some answers.
We
Yes,
don't
we
have all
are.
we have some answers. So if we had who is in charge of public spaces in a city? If we had all the people, and a designer plays one role, right? Is
Right.
one person. There are the financial planners, there is the legislators, there is the bureaucrats. They're all
Now
there.
there is COVID.
We are
Who is
not
treating
in a
doctors?
silo.
There is COVID right now. Who is treating doctors? It's exactly the same thing. There is an issue with our public spaces. Who has to treat it? Architects. The moment we know that, I think we will have an answer. And that's all that I'm looking at. With this panel, I'm saying, let's forget everything that doesn't happen. Let's talk about things that can happen. And I think we have lots of people commenting, and I think I can see Arshia saying public forum is the only way to get out of the silos. Engagement with public is necessary. Yes, absolutely. And sometimes understanding and articulating what public needs is an architect's job. You know, it's exactly like a patient going to a doctor and saying, this is somewhere I have an issue in my stomach. The doctor decides whether he needs an MRI or he needs a
But
capsule.
first, he listens to the patient.
Yes. Yes.
First, he listens to the patient. Do we even have a system to listen?
If
I
as
think,
architects,
Vivek,
When do we
identify-
listen? When do we
I think-
listen?
We have to
Vivek,
listen. And but it's very evident, isn't it? Very evident that today when you
So I
step
think
out
the
of your
issue
house.
is,
Yes, Kiran,
Vivek,
please.
the issue is that are we as citizens, as architect citizens, are we part of the process or are we not part of the process? At the moment, I don't think we are actively part of the process. And unless we
fault
come
is
in
it?
actively, come in and become part of the process. So yes, there is a role that design plays. But, I honestly feel that today, we put a lot of emphasis on design. I firmly believe that even if we can get small things done today, I think the biggest problem that we have is even getting small things done. Whether it's good design, not good design is debatable, and I would even leave it. I would say that as long as we can come forward, I think we as architects pay too much kind of load on, is this good design? Is this well articulated? Not well articulated? And because of that, we just get out of the process. And I think we have to come into the process to engage with, I think, multifariously. We have to engage with public, we have to engage with corporators, we have to engage with the legal system, and we have to engage in getting things implemented. I think the biggest problem today is how do we get things implemented? And that is something we can, otherwise they'll keep remaining pipe dreams and stuff like that. And, honestly speaking, I think that, I have a little bit of a hesitation when you talk about the Jindals coming and doing these mushrooms. These are kind of small gestures that people come in and they'll throw
They
some
make a
money.
difference to society.
That's all right. They make a little difference to society, but I think we've got to think deeper than that. That's what I'm trying to say. We've got to think more holistically than that. I think if we rely on corporates to come in, I also firmly believe that there is enough money with the municipality have. It is squandered away. Priorities are not there. Then the so-called philanthropists, the so-called this thing come in, and they say, okay, we are doing this island or we are doing this. I think this is peanuts, if you ask me. I think it's something far more substantial is needed as part of all of us as architects. I'm going to get back to architects, designers, engaging in the process. And I personally feel that there is not enough engagement happening currently. That's what my issue is.
We will again remain to processes. Let's just, Sheila, I want you to plow into good design of public spaces. Let's not discuss about the processes. Okay, you've got an entire beachfront to design. What are the priorities? How do we make it equitable? Because they say the depth of democracy is measured by the public spaces that it has. Tiananmen Square happened, Washington Square, whatever, all those areas are signs of democracy. India Gate, everybody's been talking about, there's been big debate about the Central Vista project. I wish we could take that up as well. Rahul, you've been very, very vocal about the Mumbai Port Trust project. You've been very vocal about the Coastal Road project. These were projects in the public realm. But I think because of your own, I'm not being personal in it, but one's own perception and one's own vision of a certain thing, those projects are opposed. I think on certain reason, I think if we play an architect, then we shouldn't play the role of an environmentalist. we should remain an architect. We should only value a project basis good or bad design. But why not?
Sorry.
I tell my students that if nature has and this cosmos has been given to you by providence to live in, we as architects
Right.
carve out our spaces to create usable spaces for different people or for different purposes. So you were saying architects are not God. They're not God, but they are guiding angels. And if you look at it that way, we come from a democracy where we are all used to cricket and wonderful games of cricket. So a cricket game cannot be a success if there are not 1,000 or 10,000 spectators to cheer. So those are the people, and the players can be the people who are involved in the process, the bureaucrats, the corporates, the NGOs, etc. And it's all guided by somebody who has the sensibilities,
Right.
environmentalist, architects, design, and this is what the people want, not what you want.
Right. So I
Okay,
think
I want to add something here. Somebody asked me a while ago that which is the most successful public space that you have seen and experienced. And I really, being born and brought up in Bombay, I think Marine Drive is the most successful public space that I have seen. Is there any design to it? There is no design to it. There is just scale to it. No, there is no design to it. Let me be as an architect. No, Vivek, let me finish. Has an architect designed it? An architect has not designed it. There's a framework created. What is nice about Marine Drive is that it's got a really, really wide kind of a promenade, a nice place to sit on. It's been designed technically and it just works beautifully. It doesn't need any program. It's got no fancy lights. It's got no fancy benches. It's got nothing at all. But it's one of the most successful public spaces. And I think part of it is that it is, quote unquote, very less design in it, which is, I think, very, very good. And I think it's very, very successful. It's got no program. It's got hardly any program. It may have a toilet here or a toilet there or a water fountain here, but nothing of any substantial nature. But I think it's but it's really a strong public space. It's something that has been interpreted over the years. And, I did an exercise of looking at Marine Drive. If you look at Marine Drive in movies, right from the 1930s to today and stuff like that, the number of people have changed, but apart from that, very little has changed, honestly speaking. I've actually done a documentation of it in how movies have represented Marine Drive from the 30s right to today. And it's just that's the beauty of it, that the cars have changed, horses have gone, cars have come in, people have become far more crowded, but the space is so robust that it can still take in the pressures, which is what I find fantastic. Which is what I find fantastic about it.
Fantastic.
Hello?
That's what it is. Yeah.
So Vivek, you're trying to provocate. I know you're taking
Kiran,
the road of the provocator, saying the architect shouldn't be concerned about the environment. I don't know where that came from, but I don't know whether you really meant it. But see, as architects and urban
let me just finish on Kiran's thing. Rahul, just a second to answer Kiran. What has remained constant, Kiran, is that the skyline of Marine Drive has not changed. That has been a constant, and because of that, the nature of that Marine Drive has not changed. The moment you put a multi-story building there, if you put a 80-story building there, the entire shadow that will be cast on the Marine Drive, it will change the nature of the whole thing. So there is a constant that is there. The user thing has not changed, and skyline has not changed, and because of that, the public space has remained the same. To answer your question, and also there is enough placemaking that has happened over a period of time. But yes, coming back to Rahul, what Rahul is, so I don't mean what I'm to say that we try to wear too many hats. If we remain primarily as an architect, all concerns of environment, this, that, the other, and also bring in what is the larger benefit of people and public at large, we will be respected. The entire operation, we end up disrupting something that was going to be done for people.
So, by the way, both
right
the examples which you took have nothing to do with the people. Okay, nothing. So,
Okay.
firstly,
All right.
the coastal road is being made supposedly to solve a transportation problem. Okay, but no road
Right.
in the history of mankind in a dense city the way Bombay is, FSI more than 2, roads are never the answer to a transportation problem, right? So if you talk about the common man and what the aspirations of a common man are in Mumbai, 50% of people who go to work in Mumbai walk to work, Vivek. Walk to work. 50% walk to work. Mumbai. Okay? And these are
Really?
government statistics, not mine. Another 25% travel by train. And then about 12 or 15% travel by bus. 8% travel by vehicle, either a taxi, or Ola, or Uber, or their own car. 8%, right? That's all in the city of Mumbai. So all that traffic is only 8% of the people going to work, right? If you want to solve the transportation problem of the city, we need to focus on the larger numbers, right? What do the 50% want? What do the 25% want? And what do the 15% want? Do you focus on that because we're a democracy, right? What are their aspirations? Or do you focus on this 8%, right? So the coastal road has taken the reserves. The BMC has a reserve of 60,000 crores. We are going to spend 50% of our reserves on a road that is going to serve 2% of the population. 30,000 crores we're going to spend in the next 5 to 6 years to serve 2% who travel on the western side of the city. When the BST, the buses, are asking for a subsidy of 250 crores for 25% of the people, we are saying no, city can't afford it. Every time someone will take a coastal road, every time the BMC will be putting 1,000 rupees in their pocket. You know that? Because they've realized it's not financially feasible. If they put a toll to it, nobody will go. So what have they done? They made it free. By making it free, they're putting 1,000 rupees in my pocket because I have a car, and not doing anything for the guy who's going by bus, and not doing anything for the guy who's walking to work. We are taking away footpaths and giving it to cars. Our footpaths through the last 20 years have shrunk smaller and smaller and smaller. Why? If we are saying we're a democracy and we want to deal with the people, deal with the people.
Because
We
footpath
are
also
doing
is
a
a right for the hawker.
so this no so hawkers are people, right? They're people,
But it's a
right?
fact.
They're citizens, they're
Yeah,
Indians,
right.
and designed for them. It can be designed, it can be done between the trees, etc. We've made plans for that. It doesn't affect mobility at all. Also, if you take the difference between a metro, an underground metro, and any other form, a metro costs 1/3 the amount and can serve 10 times the amount of people. So ultimately, it's 1/100th the cost of a coastal road. And the government has the cheek to say we cannot afford underground metros. We can only afford overground because they're cheaper, but they ruin the landscape. We know that. And you can never create a network if you have an overground this thing. You can't. It has to be underground to create a network. Ultimately, a metro system works because it's a system. You can get to one point to another if it's a network. So we are being very short-sighted in doing these overhead things. We're saying we don't have money. We're doing one underground line only, and we are building the most expensive road in the history of mankind with the coastal road. You know how much it costs? 1,700 crores per kilometer. You tell me where in the world is such an expensive road being made ever in the history of mankind? That is, the Romans didn't do it. If you take their cost, and their roads last much longer.
I'm
So
just
don't
hoping
get
that
me started on the coastal
no,
road.
but I'm just saying that
It's the
I'm
most
hoping that
pathetic
BMC can
project. that
BMC
anybody can think of.
leverage that road to have sell property at 10 times the price and recover the cost of the land. See, anyway,
No. They have promised the environmental ministry and the citizens of Bombay that the land they're reclaiming 70 hectares extra, that is green space, right? They have said that 100 times, that we are creating green space and a road. They've got the environmental permission based on that. The entire project is based on that. This is going to be green space. If they go back and change that, which they can by law, it'll be the biggest betrayal to Mumbaiites they've ever done, because it'll be fraud on the city.